The story begins in Krakow, where the German occupation has reshaped everyday life into something cold and controlled. Jewish families who had lived peacefully for generations find themselves registered, numbered, and pushed out of their homes. Rumors move through the streets faster than the soldiers patrolling them. New rules arrive every week, each one squeezing their world a little more. Shops are handed over, bank accounts frozen, businesses seized. Many cling to the belief that the situation will stabilize, that this harshness can't last forever, but soon the roundups start and everyone understands how quickly life can be stripped away. Oskar Schindler arrives in Krakow with an entirely different outlook. He is a businessman, a man who understands power and appearances better than morality or politics. He likes good suits, fine food, and the company of influential men. He has no interest in ideology, he cares about opportunity. With charm and careful networking, he ingratiates himself with Nazi officers. He buys drinks, shares cigars, flatters the right people, and makes sure his presence is remembered. His goal is simple. He wants to take over a factory and profit from the war. The German occupation is terrible for many, but for him, it looks like a moment to rise. The enamelware factory he wants, Deutsche Emalwarenfabrik, will need cheap labor to turn profits quickly. Jewish workers fit perfectly into this plan. Because they are forbidden from owning businesses or earning fair wages, the cost is negligible. Schindler knew that if he partnered with the Jewish accountant Itzhak Stern, he could navigate the complex system of permits and paperwork. Stern is quiet and reserved, but he sees immediately that Schindler is a man who wants something and can be persuaded if approached carefully. Stern knows the lives of thousands of Jews depend on work permits, and he sees the factory as a potential shelter disguised as a business. Stern begins assembling a list of. The liquidation of the Krakow ghetto begins without warning, announced only by the growing tension in the streets. Guards pour in from every entrance, shouting orders, dragging people out of their homes, and pushing them into the open. Children cry into their parents' clothing. Elderly residents try to gather belongings but are beaten back. Soldiers march through hallways and staircases, forcing everyone outside under the threat of rifles. The calm of normal life dissolves instantly. Windows shatter. Doors slam open. The air fills with panic. Schindler watches from a distance at first, disturbed by the organized brutality unfolding below the hill where he stands. The ghetto, once bustling with cramped life, becomes an arena of chaos. Anyone who cannot keep up is shot openly. Bodies fall in the street, left where they drop. Schindler's eyes move across the scene, seeing soldiers break down doors and pull families into the open. He sees a small girl in a red coat wandering alone, unnoticed by the screaming crowds. Her quiet movement through the madness burns into his memory. She becomes a symbol he cannot shake. This moment changes him more deeply than he understands. Meanwhile, Amon Goeth arrives in Krakow to oversee the forced evacuation and to run the new labor camp, Plaso. He steps into his role with a twisted enthusiasm. Cruelty comes to him as naturally as breathing. From the balcony of his villa, he surveys prisoners and shoots anyone he considers slow or disobedient. His presence turns life in the camp into a daily gamble between survival and death. After the liquidation, Stern and many of Schindler's workers are transferred to Plaso, now under Goeth's control. Conditions shift from extreme hardship to outright terror. Prisoners wake before dawn, stand in freezing roll calls for hours, and spend their days working under constant threat of execution. Guards beat workers for the smallest mistakes. Food is scarce and punishment is unpredictable. The war continues to shift against Germany, and new orders begin to move through the chain of command. Camps in occupied Poland are being emptied, their prisoners transported to Auschwitz or other extermination centers. Rumors spread inside Plaso, whispered in the barracks late at night. People know that if the camp is shut down, most of them will not survive the transfer. Fear grows stronger every day. Work slows because of exhaustion and hopelessness, and the guards respond with more violence. The atmosphere is thick with dread, like everyone is holding their breath. Schindler senses what is coming. He hears officers talk during their dinners, complaining about evacuations and logistics. He hears mentions of orders to dismantle the Krakow facilities. He studies their expressions, catching what they don't say. He realizes that once Plazow is closed, his workers will be sent to Auschwitz, and their chances of survival will disappear. The urgency takes hold of him. For months, he had protected them within the walls of his factory. Now he needs a larger plan, something that goes beyond bribes and paperwork. He decides to relocate his entire factory away from the camp system. The idea is bold and dangerous, but he sees no other way. If he can move operations to Moravia, inside German territory, he can claim he needs his trained workers transported with him. He can build a new factory that produces ammunition, which the army will consider essential. In truth, he has no interest in making weapons. His only aim is to remove his workers from the grasp of the Nazi killing machine. Stern listens to his plan and knows immediately what this means. It is a chance, maybe the only one they will ever have. To get approval, Schindler must persuade Amon Goeth. This requires finesse. He visits Goeth often, sitting across from the man while the commander boasts about his control of the camp. Schindler presents the relocation as profitable for both of them. He pretends the move. The final months of the war press down on everyone with a strange tension. The German armies are collapsing on every front. Officers in uniform walk with agitation, sensing the world they controlled slipping away. In Brunlitz, the soldiers assigned to the factory seem less disciplined, more confused about their orders. Some act with greater cruelty out of frustration. Others appear nervous, as if they can already feel judgment coming. The prisoners notice these changes. They understand that uncertain times can be the most dangerous. Schindler works constantly, hardly sleeping. He continues bribing officers and guards to ensure his workers are left alone. He arranges for extra food brought secretly into the factory. He convinces supply officers to turn a blind eye to shortages. Every day feels like a negotiation he must win. He knows the war is ending, but he also knows that until the last gun falls silent, his workers are still at risk of sudden violence. He steps into the factory often, checking on everyone, speaking quietly with Stern and the foreman. His presence keeps morale steady. The factory continues producing ammunition that does not work. Sometimes inspectors grow suspicious, noticing that none of the shells fire correctly. Schindler smooths over their concerns with more bribes, more charm, more promises. The workers know what they're making. They handle each shell with care, sabotaging it in subtle ways that look accidental. It becomes a quiet act of defiance, a small way of resisting the system that tried to destroy them. Nights in the barracks are filled with uncertainty. People talk softly, wondering how much longer they must endure. Some fear that the Germans will kill them all before fleeing. Others cling to the hope that Allied armies will arrive soon. The sound of artillery in the distance grows louder as the days pass. The prisoners know that change is close, although its shape is still unclear. Schindler begins planning what will happen when